Understand our perception, because your perception is what you are creating when you're looking at your perception. And for those of you that have done the NLP and things like that, and you may have read the book, The Holographic Universe, and when we observe something, the observer changes that which is being observed through our filter. And this is what I'm talking about, our perception. Whatever we're perceiving in life, whatever we're perceiving and how we think our reality is coming through our observation. Now, there's two ways we can be this. We can be just allowing and pretending that is who we are. And this is the point that I really want you to look at. Your perception of your reality or whatever's going on in your life, it is not who you are. It is just a state. It is just a reality. All states are just that. Yet what we tend to do through our perception, because that is our reality of what we're seeing or perceiving or what we're thinking, we go, oh, I am this, or my life is this. No, you are just resonating at a frequency through the level of consciousness, and you are resonating at that frequency through your perception that you have. And so if you've got a perception of things that you do not like, and this is where we use our choices, we look at our choices, they'll be our current reality. That is through the perception of your imagination of what you've been creating. And so when we look at it like that, and you go, and you start to go, oh, this is not who I am. It is just my perception. And it's about separating yourself from the identification that you have around your perception. And when you can see that, you go, oh, so I can be anything I want. I can be anything I want in the universe. And yet I'm choosing that this is my experience. So if it is illness that you have, or if it's relationship, or if it's money, it's whatever it is, where you find yourself having a resistance, what you look at there is you go, oh, if I'm not happy there, then what is my perception that I have of myself, or that I have of this that's creating this? And when we begin to, we recognize that we're observing it, so we are creating it. When we shift that, what happens is then we can then move up into that which we like. And so how do we do that? We do it through our imagination. And it's the thing that happens that when we really break it down and we begin to slow it down, that old reality that you were perceiving yourself to be, when you change your mind, and this is where in the Bible they say repent, all that repent means is changing your mind, is a change in mind, a change in frequency, in other words. You will no longer perceive yourself as this, you choose to perceive yourself as that. And the way I like to look at it is like on a high-rise building. If you perceive yourself to be someone who lives in the second floor, then that's what your journey will be. But if you raise your consciousness and now perceive yourself to be on the 20th floor, you get a different reality. And for you, in your consciousness, because as you're perceiving yourself as this new state, that old state that you were in dissolves, burns away, because you give it no more energy. It still is there for someone else who is in that vibration. When we understand our consciousness like that, and we understand that, oh, geez, if I shift my consciousness, if I shift my awareness and who I'm perceiving myself to be to the choice that I desire, then my reality will start being that. And it can happen in a second. It's just a change in mind. But where we get caught is in our programming or making our perception that we're in. Now, we think, instead of perceiving that as just the state, we say we identify ourselves as being that state. And this is the key distinction. When you get this, you are not that state. You are just perceiving that vibration. You're just perceiving that level of consciousness. You are not it. You have been being it through the perceptions that you've been hanging on to. And when you start to get that, you go, oh my God. So if I'm perceiving myself to be ill, to have an illness, or then that is my experience that the universe reflects back to me. Yet when I realize that I'm the creator of my own domain, and I realize I am health and vitality, and I command of myself to be that, I raise the frequency. This lower perception then begins to melt away. And it's dependent on the amount of resistance that you have there on how fast you will do it. So getting back to the start of that, when we look at our life, when we look through our little peepholes and we see life, whatever we are perceiving it to be, or however, wherever we're observing it from, if you are reacting, your perception is going to be XYZ. And give you an example of that. Last night I was around doing something and I had to put something into a Facebook group that I'm part of. And they've just changed the rules that you now, well, that certain people have to go through the administrators. And I'm talking, this group's only got 50 people. And you go, it's not even a big group. What the hell? What's the control there? And I felt the little fire inside of me begin to ignite as I went into reaction mode. And I looked at it and I thought, this is stupid. I squirted some language onto Terry Ann and she laughed at me. But then I looked and I went, wow, my perception or reactions, because it was a reaction, their action was caught, and I got caught in their perception in that game, and I found myself get caught. This is all about control. This is stupid. This is blah, 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 whatever story I wanted to put to it. And then I look at it and I go, well, what would happen if I raised myself above it? And I would raise myself to the higher frequency. Do I address it? Yes, I'll tell them. I say, hey guys, what the hell's going on with this? This is stupid. But does it matter? No, it doesn't. I move beyond. And then my communication with that group will either continue or it won't. Yet I choose how I want to be. That state that they have there is a perception on level of control, wanting to do this, do that, whatever it is. And I can either stay caught in that perception that I'm getting treated a certain way, or I can just move into joy and love and stay in that, in the higher frequency. And whatever happens down here, just it's of no concern to me because I've moved beyond it. It's not personal. That's the thing that you've got to recognize, that your perception of your reality, it's not personal. It's just a state that you are residing in through your programming and your belief systems. It's not personal. And if you can remove yourself from it being personal, you set yourself free. And this is something that I want you to look at here. I really want you to look at as you look at your reality, whether it be your health, your finances, your relationship, your spirituality, your career, whatever it is, and you have conflict there, it's not personal. That's like Ian talked about his caravan being hit by the hailstones. It wasn't personal. He just happened to have his caravan there and the hail was falling there. It's not personal, but the perception of whatever goes on, he can get caught in it or he can raise above. He can move to the higher frequency. Yes, you go through the obstacles of whatever's happening, but are you getting caught? And this is something I want you to look at in your life and just have a look at this here and now. Where are you making it personal? Your perception of your reality that you are perceiving is just from your belief filters and all that sort of stuff. And you are having trouble separating yourself from that perception. And I just want you to look at it. I want you to just have a look and think in your life, whereabouts are you getting caught? Whereabouts are you getting caught there? And look at the meaning that you've associated to it. And notice what you say to yourself. That's it. There, right there. Beautiful. All you need to do is notice it. Now, if you were to change your mind, what would you put there instead? If you could have infinite possibilities, what would you put there instead? And just by merely changing your mind, what happens to that resistance? What happens to that old perception? By simply changing your mind and putting on that higher frequency. So it's not personal anymore. It's just a state. It's just a state of consciousness. And what we're doing is raising up. This is what I talked about yesterday about raising up the cross. You're going up to the higher level. And you look at that resistance or whatever, where your current reality is or whatever's going on, that perception that you have, and you have whatever resistance is there, whatever stories, and you look at it and you go, wow, I keep having this perception. I keep having this reality because I'm making it personal to me, to who I think I am. I'm being this. And as soon as you stop and you look at that, you realize that it's just consciousness moving. And then out of infinite possibilities, you get to choose. And yet, for a lot of us, our addiction comes back to whatever that was. And quite often, when we're coming back to that, what it was, because there's some sort of hurt there. And remember the three teachings of the unconscious mind. You want to belong, you want to feel safe, and you want to survive. And that old pattern keeps bringing you back to that reality. And so as you're there now, what I want you to do is just allow yourself to place the light of pure essence of love and pierce it into that resistance on wanting to, that old perception, and just pierce it in there. And what you're doing is you are filling it with consciousness, filling it with light. And I can feel in some of you, as you're letting this go, there is a fear that rises inside of you. Oh, geez, who will I be if I let this go? What will my life be like? If I don't have this, I won't have control. If I don't have this, if I don't keep this perception, then my life's going to fly apart. Yeah, your life as you know it through that perception will fly apart. So that's the old identity fighting for its survival. But what you're doing is you are sitting consciously, you are sitting here in awareness, and you are looking at your identity of who you thought you were and your attachments to that reality. As you sit there with it and you breathe through this, you clean. I love you, thank you, sorry, forgive me. Or you allow it to be recoded. And that's the same thing that's going on. As you are recoding it, you're letting go your grip or your attachment to thinking you are it. You now, as you keep letting the light go in there, one of the things that happens is there becomes space between who you think you are and that perception of that reality. And as you create the space, you begin to separate yourself from the meanings that you had associated to it. That's it. There you go. Good. That's it. Just keep letting it clean off, and you'll find you'll start feeling lighter. It just starts letting go. You start feeling lighter and you start feeling clearer. As you start feeling lighter and clearer, you then get other possibilities start popping up in your consciousness. And what you look for here is, what do you desire? Because what you desire comes through from the essence inside of yourself on moving you towards that which you are wanting to create. And so you then start perceiving that. So then as that's happening for you here, then now allow yourself to rise to that new perception. And what I want you to do is two things I want you to do here. As you rise up into this new perception of yourself, notice what happens to the old one. Because once you don't focus on it anymore, where does it go? Where does it go? What happens to it? It just disintegrates and is no longer real. Because you no longer have your attention on it. You move beyond it. And if you look at that, and this is where we're breaking it down a little bit and just showing you, if you look at that, you're still here, aren't you? So what happened to that perception? It wasn't right, real, or true. It's just a perception. You are no longer that state. You have now moved up into some other state. But you're not that state either. But you are perceiving yourself to be it. And when we get this, when we start recognizing this, we start waking up. And as we start waking up, we realize that these states, these perceptions are all just levels of consciousness, and they have no meaning. And what we do is, when we act in that level of consciousness, when we act in that, we then are able to create and pull those things in that we choose.